If wealth had a face, it was hers. If confidence had legs, it walked in her heels. Her name? Amarachi Okizi, daughter of late High Chief Okizi, the oil tycoon whose name alone sent accountants into a panic. But Amarachi had long outgrown her father's legacy. She was now a billionaire in her own right, a property mogul, fashion icon, and socialite whose mere presence on a red carpet caused blogs to crash. She didn't walk, she glided. She didn't speak, she commanded. Her smile was rare, her forgiveness rarer. That Sunday morning, Amarachi stood before her full-length mirror in her Lagos penthouse, clothed in a gold designer gown that sparkled like sunrise on fresh oil. Her makeup was flawless. Her hair pulled back into a sleek bun that revealed her razor-sharp cheekbones and glistening neck. Today wasn't about business. It wasn't about the billionaire real estate bid waiting in her email. Today, she was simply going to the market. Not just any market. She was headed to Umunaji Market, the same dusty, chaotic, old-fashioned market where her mother once traded pepper before marrying her father. She was going for content, she had said, but in truth, she was going to shock the villagers. She wanted to humble them by just existing in their midst. Umunaji Market was many things, crowded, noisy, disorganized, but it was honest. From dawn till dusk, voices clashed, sweat poured, rappers dragged on clay paths, and women fought over tomato prices like it was politics. But all of that stopped when the car arrived. It wasn't just a car, it was a beast. A freshly waxed, butter-yellow 2024 Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, so glossy it reflected the sun like a mirror. Traders paused. A group of schoolgirls dropped their bread. Even a goat stopped chewing a sachet of water. The market froze. Out stepped Amarachi, a walking sculpture of wealth, fitted Ankara gown, tailored with crystals. Her wrists sparkled with gold. Her heels clicked like royal drums. She adjusted her sunglasses and stared straight ahead. No smiles, no nods. Two young men with handheld fans followed behind her. A camera crew in black moved with calculated rhythm, filming her every step for Instagram. It was like Beyoncé had entered a village soap opera. On a wooden stool beside the pepper section sat an old woman. Her wrapper was faded. Her feet were bare. Her skin wrinkled like folded fabric. Her breathing slow and uneven. Her name was Mama Nwaka, but she hadn't heard that name in years. Most people just called her Mama. She watched the glowing woman walk past, her vision blurred from age but not from memory. Then something hit her. The walk, the chin, the tiny scar on her arm. A memory from decades ago burst open like a calabash. A little girl, no more than 5, crying over a scraped knee. "Mama Nwaka, sing for me," she had sobbed. And Mama had sung, Chi baby, the stars are yours. The moon is your friend. Your mama is near." She whispered to herself in disbelief. "Chi baby? Could it be?" She stood. Her bones cracked like dried twigs as she pushed herself forward. "Chi baby," she called, louder this time. She reached out and gently touched Amarachi's elbow. Amarachi turned, startled. The camera zoomed in. People were watching. The old woman smiled with trembling lips. "It's me. Mama Nwaka, don't you remember?" Amarachi blinked. Her face stiffened. "What did you just call me?" Amarachi asked, loud enough for all to hear. The old woman leaned closer. "Chi baby, I raised you. When your mama died—" "Security!" Amarachi barked. Mama Nwaka flinched. "I'm not mad-o. I used to bathe you. I carried you on my back every day. Slap. The sound cut through the market like a machete. Gasps echoed from every corner. A tomato seller dropped her basket. A woman screamed. A baby started crying. Mama Nwaka fell backward, crashing into a wheelbarrow of yams. The market was silent. Even the flies stopped buzzing. Amarachi dusted her palm and spat the words, "Don't ever touch me again. I don't know you." She snapped her fingers. The cameras kept rolling and the Benz doors closed. Within seconds she was gone, leaving dust, broken pride, and a village market stunned beyond words. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over Lagos, but it didn't find Amarachi in her usual glory. She was restless. Her bed, king-size, feather-soft, lined with Italian sheets, felt like a rock. She tossed, turned, closed her eyes, opened them again. Something inside her was unsettled. She reached for her phone, instinctively scrolling through Instagram. The first thing she saw, a blurry video from Umonaji Market. Captioned, "Heartless billionaire slaps elderly woman who called her daughter." Her throat went dry. The comments were brutal. Wickedness has a face. She doesn't even remember the woman who raised her. May her pride bury her dignity. She froze. It was all over social media, on Twitter, on WhatsApp statuses, on gossip blogs. Chai baby slap was trending in 3 states. Then her phone rang. Caller ID, Ijeoma, kid sister. She answered with a sigh, trying to sound unfazed. "Hey, baby sis." But what came through the line wasn't a greeting, it was a scream. "You did what?" Amarachi sat up. "Ijeoma, calm down. You slapped Mama Nwaka? You slapped her in public?" Amarachi blinked. Her lips parted, but no words came. Ijeoma's voice cracked. "Do you even remember who she is? That woman gave her entire life to us. You used to cry for her when she left the room. She was the only mother you knew for years." Silence. Then a whisper. "She came to our house yesterday to drop something for you." The phone dropped from Amarachi's hand. Her mind, once cold and proud, was now on fire. She walked to her giant mirror and looked at herself. Perfect makeup, smooth skin, luxury gown. But the woman in the mirror looked ugly now. Suddenly, memories came rushing back like flooding rain. A small clay lamp glowing in a dark room. A woman with rough hands washing her hair while singing, Chi baby, your mama is near." A night she had malaria and Mama Nwaka sat by her all night, placing wet cloth on her head and singing lullabies. The day Mama Nwaka sold her gold bangle to buy Amarachi school shoes, she collapsed to the floor. No tears came, just shame. She had become everything Mama Nwaka warned her not to be. Proud, heartless, blind to her roots. 3 days after the incident at the market, Amarachi sat in the VIP lounge of a high-end gallery in Lekki Phase 1, dressed in a silk emerald green jumpsuit, sipping lemon water like royalty. Journalists gathered to cover the launch of her new real estate app, Amalux. Every light was on her. Every eye was watching. Amarachi basked in the glory until her assistant leaned over and whispered, "Ma, that old woman from the market is here again." Amarachi froze. "What? How?" The assistant pointed discreetly. Across the lounge, just outside the glass doors, stood Mama Nwaka in a simple blue wrapper and a white scarf. She looked lost, out of place, but her eyes were locked on Amarachi. She was clutching a faded brown envelope. Amarachi's heart raced. She recognized that envelope. It was the one Mama Nwaka used to keep her baby pictures and her mother's old letters. The PR cameras were rolling. The media was watching. She stood up immediately, fixed her smile, and whispered through gritted teeth, "Get that woman out of here. I don't know her." The assistant hesitated. "But Ma, she says it's urgent." She said, "Do you want to lose your job?" Minutes later, 2 security guards quietly dragged Mama Nwaka away. She didn't fight. She just kept looking at Amarachi with those same tired, loving eyes. As she was led out, she whispered, "Chi, baby, please. Just listen. It's about your mother's final wish." But Amarachi had already turned her back. That weekend, Amarachi hosted a private charity dinner at a 5-star rooftop lounge. Billionaires were in attendance. Oil barons, politicians, celebrity pastors, and foreign investors. The air was thick with perfume, ambition, and money. She wore a silver evening gown that glistened under the moonlight. Her smile was polished, her laughter rehearsed. The host stood to toast her. "Ladies and gentlemen, let us raise our glasses to the Queen of Real Estate, the Diamond of Lagos, Miss Amarachi Okizi." Thunderous applause. Cameras flashed. Just as she stood to speak, a waiter rushed toward her. "Madam," he said quietly, "a woman downstairs is refusing to leave. She's asking for you." Amarachi's face dropped. It couldn't be. She excused herself and followed him to the elevator. When the doors opened on the ground floor, there she was again, Mama Nwaka. Barefoot this time, tears in her eyes, holding nothing but a wooden comb Amarachi once carved as a child and gave her for her birthday. It had her name burnt on it. "Mama, what is this?" Amarachi whispered harshly, panicked. "I didn't want to come here, but I had to," Mama Nwaka said softly. "You blocked me everywhere. I just wanted to give you your mother's last message. I promised her." "I don't know you," Amarachi hissed. "Stop following me. You're going to ruin my image." People were starting to gather. Someone recognized her. Another person raised a phone. Amarachi did the unthinkable. She grabbed the comb, shoved it back into Mama Nwaka's hand, and shouted loud enough for others to hear, "You are not my mother, and you never were. Leave me alone." Mama Nwaka flinched like she'd been shot. A woman gasped. A man cursed under his breath. Cameras clicked. But Amarachi walked back to the elevator, her heels loud, her head high, her heart pounding. Back at her mansion, Amarachi stood in her marble bathroom staring at her reflection. Her makeup was still perfect, her jewelry sparkled, but she looked like a ghost. She poured herself a glass of wine and went to her private lounge, scrolling through pictures of her younger self. Photos with Mama Nwaka at her graduation, at her first birthday, the one where she was sitting in a basin of water, laughing. Then she remembered something. Her mother's last letter. Mama had written it on her deathbed. Amarachi had never opened it. It was handed to Mama Nwaka to give to her when she turned 30. She had turned 30 last week. Was that what Mama Nwaka had been trying to deliver? It had been 2 weeks since the charity dinner scandal. The internet had moved on, but Amarachi hadn't. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Mama Nwaka's eyes. Not angry, not bitter, but heartbreakingly kind. She kept hearing that soft voice whisper, "It's about your mother's last wish." But Amarachi pushed it all aside. Pride was a thick wall, and she'd built it high. That morning, she was seated in her glass-walled office on the 31st floor of the Amalux Tower. Her lawyers and investment team were gathered around, celebrating. "Madam, the Lekki Island deal is almost ours. We just need final signature from the land trustees," she smiled thinly. "Schedule the signing for Thursday." "Already done, Ma." As they left the office, Amarachi reached into her bag for her lip gloss and paused. A folded paper, old, brown-edged, soft like cloth. It was the letter, the one Mama Nwaka had tried to give her at the gallery, the dinner, the hospital. She stared at it. Her heart pounded. She almost opened it. Then she scoffed and tossed it back in her bag. What could possibly be in there that matters now? She whispered to herself. She didn't realize. That decision had just cost her everything. Thursday came. Amarachi's team was seated in a grand boardroom. Reporters were outside, documents ready, lawyers smiling. A deal worth 5.4 billion naira was on the table. But the key trustee, the woman who held the final signature, was an old retired royal from Imo State. She arrived late. Wrapped in fine akwete, supported by a walking stick, she stared at Amarachi with narrowed eyes as she walked in. Amarachi stood, extending a hand confidently. The old woman refused to shake it. "Are you the one that slapped Nwaka in the market?" she asked coldly. Amarachi blinked. "Excuse me?" The woman didn't sit. She dropped the pen. "I knew Nwaka. We trained together in the 1960s. She called me 2 weeks ago, crying. I told her to bring your letter. She said you refused to read it." Amarachi's chest tightened. The woman turned to the board. "I will not be signing any document today. Your company will not touch that land." She walked out. Silence fell. One lawyer began packing his briefcase quietly. Another picked his phone. Amarachi stood there, rooted. Just like that, her biggest deal in 3 years had crumbled, and the internet hadn't even heard yet. That night, Amarachi sat alone in her penthouse. No lights, no sound, just the distant hum of Lagos traffic below. She poured herself a glass of wine, then stopped. On her glass table, right where she had dropped it, lay the letter again. Unopened. She stared at it for a long time. Finally, she whispered to herself, "What am I so afraid of?" She reached for it. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. A slow, weak voice spoke through the line. "Chi, baby!" she gasped. "Mama Nwaka?" Silence, then static, then the line cut. She stared at the phone. What was that? A prank? A glitch? She tried calling back. The number didn't exist. That night, Amarachi had a dream. She was a little girl again, running barefoot through a compound. She could smell firewood, hear her mother laughing. Then everything turned dark. She saw Mama Nwaka standing in a white wrapper, holding the same brown envelope, her face calm. "You have 7 days," she said. 7 days for what? But Mama Nwaka didn't answer. She simply turned, walked into the dark, and vanished. Amarachi woke up sweating. The next 7 days were a slow unraveling. Her social media accounts were hacked. Private DMs leaked. A former staff accused her of verbal abuse. 2 pending investors withdrew without explanation. A journalist published a blog titled, "The Woman Who Forgot the Hands That Raised Her." Her phone was flooded. Her publicist warned, "Ma, we're trending again. It's bad. You need to control the story." But Amarachi wasn't listening. She had locked herself in her study. The letter sat before her, still unopened. It was exactly 1:18 a.m. when Amarachi's phone rang. She had fallen asleep on the sofa, her eyes swollen from crying, the brown envelope lying beside her untouched, as always. Caller ID. "Chief Ugo, family lawyer," she answered groggily. "Amarachi," the voice said carefully, "I'm so sorry to call you at this hour. Something urgent has come up, regarding your mother's estate." She sat up straight. "What about it?" There was silence. Then, "You were never supposed to inherit the empire alone." She froze. "What are you talking about?" Chief Ugo's voice turned heavy. "That letter from Mama Nwaka, your mother wrote it before she died. It's not just a message, it's a legal declaration, a confession." Amarachi stood dizzy with fear. "Confession?" "She left instructions for you, to be handed to you on your 30th birthday. It explains everything, but you refused to read it." Amarachi's breath caught in her throat. Her hands trembled. She looked down at the letter like it was a living, breathing thing. "I'm begging you," the lawyer said. "Open it now." And then he hung up. The letter smelled like dust and time. Amarachi sat on the floor of her study, legs crossed, hair messy, barefoot and broken. The letter trembled in her hand as she finally broke the wax seal and unfolded the fragile paper. Her mother's handwriting, still strong. She read, "My darling Chi baby, if you're reading this, I've already gone, but you're now 30, and there's something I never told you. Something you deserve to know, if your heart is soft enough to receive it. Before you were born, I had a son. His name was Ikenna. He was your older brother. But because I was not yet married and came from a conservative royal family, I was forced to give him away. He was raised by my distant cousin. I lived with that pain every single day. After marrying your father and having you, I searched for Ikenna, but I never found him. But Mama Nwaka did, In secret, she found him, raised him, protected him, loved him, like her own. The plan was for you two to meet one day, when you were both grown enough to forgive the past. Amarachi, everything you own was meant to be split between you and your brother. The truth is, you were never meant to be the sole heir. And Mama Nwaka, she held the original documents to that truth. She held the power to make you share everything. But she never used it, because she believed in your heart. Find your brother, heal this family, and if you can, forgive me. With my soul, your mother. Amarachi's scream shattered the room. She curled into herself, sobbing uncontrollably. Her empire wasn't hers alone. She had humiliated the one woman who had protected the family's secret out of love and loyalty. And worst of all, she had ignored her brother's name. Amarachi stayed in her room for days. No phone, no internet, no PR team. She kept reading the letter over and over, each word slicing deeper than the last. Who was Ekena? Where was he? Had she met him and never known? Had Mama Nwaka tried to introduce them? Then, like a flood, memories returned. A quiet young man who once worked briefly at her estate as a landscape designer. Mama Nwaka had insisted on hiring him. She remembered how the old woman kept asking her to sit and talk with him. She remembered the resemblance, the quiet eyes, the mole on his shoulder, just like hers. She ran to her estate manager. "Find that boy, the gardener from last year. They searched, and then they found his file. Full name, Ekena Iweanya, no known parents, no fixed address, except for one emergency contact, Mama Nwaka." Amarachi found him in a woodworking shed behind a small church in Owerri. He was teaching teenagers how to carve tables. His hands were rough, his shirt was plain, but his face was peaceful. She approached him slowly. "Ekena?" she said. He turned, paused, then nodded. "You probably don't remember me," she whispered. "I do," he said gently. "I worked for you once." She nodded, too ashamed to speak. "I just found out," she said, her voice cracking. "About everything. About you, about Mama, about our mother." He didn't speak. He just looked at her, with calm, wise eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. She fell to her knees. "I don't care about the money, or the land, or the brand. You're my brother." He crouched beside her and said softly, "Then prove it." 2 weeks later, Amarachi held a press conference. Not for damage control, but for truth. The room was full, lights flashing, journalists ready to pounce. She stood up, no makeup, simple dress, hair pulled back. She told the whole story. She read the letter aloud. She introduced Ekena to the world, and then she said, "Starting today, I step down as the sole CEO of Amalux Holdings. I now co-run the company with my brother. And this," she turned to the massive photo of Mama Nwaka projected behind them, "is the woman who saved us all." Silence, then clapping, then crying. The internet exploded. It was a warm Saturday afternoon in Umonaji Market. The same dusty market. The same women who had watched Amarachi slap an old woman without blinking. The same stalls, the same sellers. But today everything was different. There were canopies, cameras, a crowd. At the center, under a white tent, stood Amarachi, dressed simply in a white lace gown with no jewelry, no makeup, just a single red bead on her wrist. Her brother Ekena stood beside her, a massive portrait of Mama Nwaka hung beside a newly unveiled plaque with the words, "In honor of Mama Nwaka, the mother who raised the forgotten." Amarachi stepped forward. She took the mic. Her voice trembled. She looked out at the sea of faces. "I came here months ago in pride. I thought my power made me untouchable, but I was blind." She paused. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I slapped the hands that once fed me. I rejected the heart that once carried me. I denied the woman who sacrificed everything to protect a truth I wasn't ready to face." The crowd was silent. She tried to reach me again and again, but pride is a loud prison, and it cost me the chance to say goodbye. She turned slowly, stepped toward the unveiling curtain, and pulled it down. There, on a granite block, "Forgiveness is a second chance to be human. Mama Nwaka, forever loved, forever ours." The crowd erupted in tears. A few people clapped softly. Others just wept silently. One elderly woman in the crowd whispered, "Now, she's finally home." Months later, Amarachi sat beside Akena at their new joint foundation office, the Nwaka Legacy Center for Forgotten Mothers. They had vowed to help aged nannies, abandoned women, and silent caregivers across Nigeria. Their first action? Funding the education of all 5 children of the women who once sold pepper beside Mama Nwaka's corner at the market. And every year on her birthday, Amarachi would wear the same red bead and read the same words. Chi baby, your mama is near." The moral of the story: never forget who held you before the world knew your name. No matter how far you rise, if you deny your roots, you deny your soul. And sometimes, the person you're too proud to be seen with is the one who holds your life's biggest key. If this story touched you, if it made you cry, reflect, or remember someone you once called mama, then don't just watch and scroll. Say thank you, make peace, and share this story with someone you never want to forget. Drop a red heart in the comment section if Mama Nwaka deserves to be remembered. And don't forget, subscribe to African Tales by Imade for more powerful stories like this. Stories that heal, stories that teach, stories that will stay with you forever. Because here, we don't just tell stories. We bring African wisdom back to life.